I've been thinking about Silent Hill lately. It's kind of hard to describe why it's a creepy town from a video game that came out 24 years ago that uses your own guilt and fears against you. It's not the kind of place you want to be in, and yet, why do I still think about it? The town has a hold on me that no other fictional world has on me, and it's oddly comforting. Most people want to live in Star Wars or the Wizarding World of Harry Potter and go to Hogwarts, and while I do wish to live in a fantasy world at times, I deeply want to explore the darkness of Silent Hill and uncover its mysteries. I guess what I'm trying to say is, Silent Hill has been calling me, and I must go to her. As I've stated in a previous video, I'm a huge horror nut, especially when it comes to cosmic horror, and Silent Hill is definitely cosmic horror. Sure, the official title is psychological horror, but there are Lovecraftian elements with Silent Hill as the gods tore their prey within the town. So already it's got me hooked, and I can't let go. It's the unknown that really draws me into such a place so dark and dangerous that I want to explore every bit of it. I want to explore every building, room, closet, crevice, hell. I want to explore the other world that'll take me to my nightmare. It's a strange comfort that should scare me to my bones, but like I said, I just love horror. From the moment I laid my eyes on such a franchise, I fell in love. I was compelled to seek the games out and experience such horrors for myself, and like most people in my position, my first experience with the game was sadly the HD collection. In retrospect, it was the best possible way to play the game without having to spend over $100 on the PS2 version, though I did eventually end up getting the PS2 version at some point. I expected an old survival horror experience with janky controls and cheesy voice acting that would not pass for today's standards with games like The Last of Us and Red Dead Redemption. What I did not expect was an emotional experience that would leave me with such an empty feeling the moment I put my control down. I was addicted to this, and I would be till the end of my days. Going through Silent Hill 2 and 3 were not just the best gaming experiences I've ever had, but the best horror experiences I've had in general. And like that, Silent Hill now has me in its teeth. The atmosphere of Silent Hill is very quiet, moody, and oppressive. The game uses a fog to limit the vision of the protagonist and therefore limiting the vision of the player. There is little to no sunlight at all when exploring, and the only sounds you hear are your own footsteps and your shaky breath. The buildings are all run down and falling apart. What was once a beautiful resort town where people come to take a vacation and get away from their suburban lives is now a ghost town falling apart slowly and taking anyone who it calls down with it. That's kind of the appeal, isn't it? We all have this morbid curiosity to explore an abandoned area to uncover whatever secret it's hiding. There is an uncanny comfort in an abandoned building that was so full of life once and is now just full of ghosts. There's also the feeling of roaming around somewhere where you're not supposed to be that urges us to go in anyway. I tend to watch videos where someone is exploring an abandoned area like a mall, apartment, and my personal favorites, movie theaters. Movie theaters to me are a second home. Fuck it, it's a religious temple in my eyes. Watching movies on the big screen is a ritual which you are transported into another world. To see a religious temple fall is heartbreaking to many, and seeing the inside of an empty theater evokes the same feeling for me. What kind of movies were shown here, and how many of the patrons and employees are still alive today? It makes you wonder what it was like before it all fell apart. I guess the word I was looking for when describing the atmosphere and why it's compelling is curiosity. It says a lot about us when we are curious to explore such a terrifying town just because we're curious. I'm not the type of person to want to go skydiving, but exploring an abandoned town where there are things that could kill me, sign me the fuck up. I love exploring areas and finding cool things that I wouldn't have if I didn't get out of my car and walk around. The question is, what am I going to find the further I go in? Before we get into that, I want to talk about the music. This wouldn't be a Silent Hill essay if we didn't talk about the music. Akira Yamaoka's soundtrack is nothing short of a masterpiece, and it's what gives Silent Hill its personality. The music draws you into a somber dream that quickly turns into a nightmare, with pieces that range from making you cry to building up your anxiety as you confront the creatures you have to face. I guess it's one of the many elements of Silent Hill that draws me in. I still get choked up whenever I hear Promise. It's a lot. As we venture forth into the dark descent, we find exactly what we're looking for in a twisted and perverted fashion. The town uses your own fears and guilt against you, becoming the physical manifestation of the darkest crevices of your mind. You are forced to confront it, and if you don't, you may not survive. The question isn't whether or not you can fight back, no. The question is, can you overcome what's haunting you? For James, it's whether or not he can forgive himself for killing his wife. Every creature you have to fight is a manifestation of the guilt and even frustration that James is holding on to. There is no doubt that James loved his wife. However, he did eventually grow to hate her as the unknown disease continued to eat her away. Depending on the ending you get, James can either move on from his guilt or succumb to it and let it take him. Either way, it's up to you because you're James. For Heather, aka Cheryl, town morphs into what represents her fears. Unlike the gray bleakness of James's town, Heather's is much more fluorescent with rust and blood surrounding the town. Most of her fears are that of a teenage girl, being that of body image issues, sexualization by men, and of course, that of forced pregnancy. Most of the creatures Heather has to face are phallic shaped and tower over her to dominate her. Heather is also on a revenge mission after she finds the death of her father. However, she, as well as the player, is given the choice to forgive Gillespie for killing her father, thus impacting the ending of the game. Heather not only has to overcome her fears, but also the hatred she's been holding on to throughout the rest of the game. It's more straightforward than Silent Hill 2 is, but it's still up to the player. The question I want answered is, what does Silent Hill look like for me? What does my Silent Hill look like, I ask myself. Maybe one day I can answer that for myself. I'll go exploring and finding all that out one day as I stumble upon a town in my many nighttime drives. However, I don't think that question will be answered anytime soon. There's something that video games do better than horror movies do, and that's having the player come out alive. Sure, there are plenty of horror movies where the protagonist survives in the end, but the interactivity of horror games makes that feeling much more palpable. It's because it's you who made it out alive. Sure, technically it was Chris Redfield who made it out alive, or in this case Heather Mason who made it out alive, but you were the ones who played the game. You are the one who pushed the buttons and moved the character further towards the end. You also determined the choices and decided the outcomes of their fates. Those fates are yours. I guess that's why Silent Hill appeals to me so much. I have to overcome the horrors in order to come out of the other side of the game and roll the credits. It's a feeling I get with most horror games that I play whenever I finish them. It's like therapy for me. If I can make it out of this situation alive, then I can do anything. I long for the day when I get to visit this town once again. The future of this franchise looks like a mixed bag, but with titles like Silent Hill F and Silent Hill Townfall, it has me excited for what's soon to come.